If you're coming from my unboxing video and first impressions of the Smart16 drone, welcome back to the channel and thank you. So we have all our equipment here from left to right. We have our goggles, which is also a GEPRC box style goggles. We have our Smart16 drone right here, and we have our radio, which is the jumper T-Light, and we have our Express LRS module in the back, which is what we have in the receiver of the drone today. So this drone here is pretty much almost completely set up here. Everything is on here. The main thing here though is, since this comes pre-assembled from the factory, you do want to check everything. So you do want to check all your screws under your drone, make sure they're tight. Sometimes there's a tendency to have some loose screws here on the motor screws or motor bolts. And also sometimes you can see a loose or a not so pressed motor. In my case, I have one that's not all the way down. All right. So let's take a look at these battery holders and see if we can install them. Pretty nice. You have two of them actually. This mount here, this TPU mount, can be installed either on the top or the bottom. So I'm just gonna slide this in here. It's not bad. That'll be a lot more loose than that, but it looks pretty good. GEPRC did release this battery recently. This is their new 380 milliamp hour battery, 1S. So it is made for this drone specifically. But this charger here isn't new. This charger was released with the TinyGo 4K, the RTF, and this was maybe the same time last year. All right, we have the center of gravity a little bit in the center, which is good. Hopefully these cords can reach. They can reach a little bit, that's good. This thing is set up. It feels, it feels significantly heavier now. Okay guys, everything here is set up. We're gonna go to the table here, go on Betaflight, make sure all our switches are configured properly. We're gonna bind the drone to the radio here, and then make sure our VTX is on the right channel and at the right power output. So let's go to the computer, take a look at the settings in Betaflight, and then we'll go for our first flight. All right guys, so we're here at the computer. We have our Smart16 right here. We have our radio and we have our goggles over here. I also have my fan here to keep this drone cool as we are gonna power it up. So let's start this fan so we have some airflow here. We have our wire here for Betaflight. We're just gonna connect this to the flight controller and you can see the drone actually light up. All right, so let's go to Betaflight. Here's Betaflight right here. We're just gonna connect. Everything looks good so far. So let's see here. All right, so we have two UARTs on this drone. The first one is used for the VTX and the second one is used by the receiver, which is good. And serial RX, that's good, is checked as well. So that comes correct from the factory. Configuration, want to make sure all that stuff is good. Talking about that, come down here. The first thing I want to see is that it is serial based, which it was. And then we have Crossfire on here, which is good because we are using the Crossfire interface protocol for the Express LRS. Besides that, we have props in. The props are already installed, so we don't have to change that, so that's good. All right, power and battery. Minimum cell voltage 3.4. This is a 1S drone. Maximum cell, that's correct, 4.4. I'll leave it at 3.5. Usually you can run these one cells just a tad bit lower than 3.5 and it'll recover fine. All right, we're not gonna change those PIDs or the rates on here. We wanna fly straight from the factory, but that's all good. Here's where you really want to take a look at. So as you can see on the screen here, we do have controller input and everything seems to be working pretty fine. All right, so that's all good. Let's go to our modes here and let's reconfigure this and we're good. So let's save this. Motors, we're not gonna try it. We know that the radio link is working. You know what, I'm gonna skip that. I'm gonna go to the VTX. Change my channel. I want race band 7, that's what I have. 25 milliwatt is fine since it's on the table right here. So we're gonna save that. So let's disconnect. And Betaflight is finished, we can unplug it. Pretty cool. All right, so let's plug this back in here and then we should have telemetry back again. And at this point, we should also have a video signal going to my goggles. So let's power this on.
Telemetry recovered.
All right, we have all our parameters in the screen now in view, and I am pleased with that. Can I check my arm switch? Sure. That works. All right, guys, so that was pretty quick and easy. Everything is bound. It looks normal like any other drone. So let's go outside, take it for a flight, and then I'll let you know my final impressions. All right, guys, we're outside here. Nice, beautiful day. It's kind of windy though. We're looking at winds between 10 and 15 miles an hour. Look at the trees back there, it's moving pretty good. Don't know if this is gonna be the best conditions for this small, tiny drone, but we'll see. All right, I have telemetry. All right, that looks good. Good image, wow. All right, let's arm this. All right, guys, we are back from the flight, and this Smart16 is super awesome, guys. This thing really impressed me. This thing exceeded my expectation, like by far. I don't know if that has to do with the supporting equipment that I'm using here, just because I'm using Express LRS, which is really responsive, very accurate, and also that I'm using my digital goggles here with the external module. So I don't know if those things contributed to a great performance, but I was totally blown away, guys. Yes, let's break down what happened today. Okay, so we went out there, took it for a flight. The weather wasn't that great. That's the first thing you have to notice, that it was very windy out there between 10 and 15 miles an hour, maybe probably even higher. So I wasn't expecting much. It wasn't the best conditions, but so what? So we put the batteries on here. The first thing I noticed here was that these batteries don't connect too well, especially if you mount it on the top. If you mount these batteries on the bottom, these leads, these battery leads probably have a better chance of connecting, but they are extremely tight or short. So anyways, we put the batteries, connected it, went for our first flight, and immediately armed it, went into air mode or acro mode, and this thing took off just like my other 3.5-inch drones. Very, very light. It just powered out of there pretty easily, no drama, just went. It was just like, wow, this thing is very responsive, very light. And I was around, I think the whole time today I was flying around between 30 and 35% throttle, just flying around. So not very high throttle position. So the first two things I noticed was just how easily it took off, and then secondly was the camera. I was just blown away by the camera. As I said before, I'm using my digital goggles here, my DJI goggles for that. So yeah, the image was very bright environment, not oversaturated, and the dynamic range was very good. Everything was good. I could see the clouds, I could see the sky, and I could see the grass. Nothing overpowering each other. So the camera on this is really good. The Caddx Ant is probably a really good camera for small quads if you're looking for something a balance between lightweight and then just, you know, overall performance. All right, so let's talk about the VTX on this. Pretty good. As I said before, this thing here was in the lowest power setting. I think it was 25 milliwatts, and I had that lower power setting here because I was working on the bench behind me here, trying to configure this with Betaflight. But we gotta say, we changed the VTX to maximum power, 200 milliwatts, and yeah, as I said before, I've flown other drones, and this 200 milliwatts was pretty impressive. I didn't have any breakup, but GEPRC has a really good track record with their VTX. I've also used their VTX in their TinyGo 4K. That's also a 2S drone, a little bit bigger than this, but the 200 milliwatts on this drone punches above that specifications. And I don't have a machine or device to check the power output, but it's pretty good. And that's with this linear dipole antenna right here, and it did a pretty good job. Never once did I lose any signal. So the placement and position of this antenna is ideal, perfect, guys. Let's talk about the flight characteristics about this drone here now. You know, this thing flew like my 3.5-inch drone. I couldn't tell. Obviously, we're using here this smaller camera, but I can't tell that it's a smaller drone. The perspective is still the same as a 3.5-inch drone. It didn't feel like it had any micro jitters, just very smooth. It tracked straight, and as I said before, it was very windy today, so I was expecting more influence from the weather. No, nothing. And then one point I was just saying, okay, this drone isn't made for that. It's very tiny, 2S, you know, 1.6-inch propellers. You know, it's a tiny freestyle drone. Let's see how it does with a dive, because some of these drones don't dive too well. You know, they start off initially, then wobble or whatever. So I went pretty high actually, guys, relatively high, and then went for a dive, and the thing didn't budge. It just tracked straight down. I said, okay, this is working out pretty good. Did a little loop or roll, and it tracked amazingly well. And it's, as I said, it behaves like a 3.5-inch drone in the fact that whenever you're ready to add in the power to recover, it recovered like a regular drone. I couldn't tell that this was a tiny drone. So props to GEPRC again for maybe the tune. The flight controller here is really good. Never once did it freak out. Sometimes you will see that if the drone encounters some kind of influence, say a shake by the weather, then the flight controller is going to overcompensate. Although I'm in air mode here, so it shouldn't do that, but I've seen other drones do that as well. The combination of the flight controller, maybe the accelerometers, and then the tune on this is amazing, guys. Like, the only thing, it was so impressive that I wish I had more batteries, guys. Now, talking about batteries, let's talk about the flight time here. As I said, these aren't the largest batteries, and these are relatively new. I mean, these are new batteries, not relatively new. These are new batteries. This was actually the first flight on them, so it performed very well. And I got between 4 minutes, actually 4 minutes and dot. So I got between, I think, 3:55 and 4 minutes. And then I disarmed it, and the battery did go back up to around, I think, 3.65 or 3.7 volts. So I could have flown for a little bit longer, maybe 10 to 30 seconds more. No big deal there. I do think if you're flying this in a really nice manner, just doing some turns and flying around, maybe you don't want to do that with this drone because this thing was made for freestyle. But if you are flying pretty nice, just sightseeing and shooting some gaps, I'm sure you can get around 5 minutes. And I'll probably do some more flying on this drone because it's so exciting, so tiny. And I think I can get 5 minutes with just flying casually with this drone, guys. So what do I think about this drone? I think it's amazing, guys. I would highly, and I mean highly recommend it to get this drone if you really want something that's very interesting, very small, but can perform just as well as a 3.5-inch drone. Maybe it's not the same amount of flight time, maybe a minute or two less, but in my opinion, it does perform very well. And this thing is so tiny, it's surprisingly very quiet, guys. So you're not gonna raise any attention by anyone around you. So who is this drone for, guys? If you're trying to fly in your backyard or in a park, small park, then yeah. Now the place I usually fly, or the place I did fly this drone, is a large park. So this thing can stretch its legs. Would I fly this indoors? Probably not. It's a little too peppy, a little too fast. I have to say though, the flight characteristics on this is so stable, so smooth, then probably you could fly it indoors. I'm just thinking about the liabilities of if I were to hit a wall or a person with these unprotected propellers, then I would do damage to someone, something, or actually to the drone instead. So yeah, that's probably not the best thing to do is fly this thing indoors. Having said that, the one thing about this drone is that it might be a little bit pricey. The other drones in the market are around $100, and this one is a little bit over that. But I do have this thing spec'd up pretty good with the ELRS receiver in here. So you could probably buy this thing, plug and play, save some money, and put your receiver in here. So anyways, guys, this is awesome. it's gonna take a lot for another manufacturer to exceed this or beat this in performance. Maybe in battery life, that's the only way I can see it improving, and maybe in price as well. But I don't think there's much on the market that can compete with this drone. So let me know what you think about the Smart16 drone. Let me know if this is a consideration for you guys. So far, this is really fun. You know, it's so funny. I've flown a few 3.5-inch drones, and I have a 5-inch drone that's brand spanking new, that's in the box. I've had it in the box for so long, and I said, I need to unbox this thing, I need to use this drone, and I've never done it because the 3.5-inch drones were so good. It was like, oh, does it get any better than this? And here I am flying this tiny Freestyle drone, 1.6 inches propellers, and this thing flies just like a 3.5-inch drone. So I guess my point is, you know, I'll be flying this a lot more, only because I can have just as much fun and just as much capabilities with this drone than with the 3.5-inch drone. It's so much smaller, inconspicuous, doesn't raise a lot of attention, and it's compact. I can put all this thing in one bag and just go for a flight, guys. So trust me, if you have the chance to get with this, if you're just slightly interested in this or a tiny Freestyle drone, I would highly recommend the Smart16 here. And I don't think you'll be disappointed, guys. Really, really good. I'll leave links for those down below. But yeah, if you have any questions about this drone or anything that I've done today, leave those comments down below. I'll be happy to answer those. And while you're there, please consider subscribing to the channel. Therefore, you'll be notified whenever I do drop a new FPV video. Yeah, guys, man, I'll be flying this more often. So anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.